Appreciate the clap in the front row there, thank you. I haven't even said that yet. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carl Lumsden. For those of you I haven't met before, and I do see some new faces in the room, I'm the agency lead for Ireland, and I look after the breakfast briefing series for the year as well. So, hands up who was absolutely freezing coming here this morning. Absolutely Baltic. I came down to get some people, some badges, and because I already had a tea, I could see them giving me the glaring eyes already. So thank you for being here on this frosty November morning. We really appreciate it. Another quick show of hands. Who has already bought any of their Christmas presents? Who's already started their Christmas shopping? Shame on you. The kids are still in their Halloween outfits. They won't take them off, and you're thinking about Christmas already. But look, that's I'm joking, but that's kind of the way it is now. It's gone so quick that we're already so focused on the next thing. We're moving ahead. And that's really what the theme of today is as well. When we were kind of figuring out what did we want to wrap the series with this year, we kind of put on our 2019 caps and thought, well, there's so much uncertainty about the lay of the land, so to speak, next year. You know, what way is Brexit going to fall? Nobody really has a kind of a clear steer on what way that's going to shape up for us. That we thought it would be remiss for us not to try and give you guys the best insight that we have and try and equip you guys to make the best of 2019 as possible. So I'm going to get straight into it. I'm delighted to say that we have Adolfo Fernandez joining us here today. He was just over in Lisbon actually doing a similar speak earlier this week, so I'm especially happy and thankful that Adolfo has been able to join us this morning. Adolfo heads up and he's Global Program Manager for our International Growth Strategy team, so no better person to have to take us through what we could be and what we should be doing perhaps going into next year. And really importantly, how we can maybe look at doing so in a really smart and efficient way for the business. So there's a lot of big words going around at the moment, you know, machine learning and AI, but what does that actually mean for your business and how can you find those opportunities abroad? How can we find new customers in different markets perhaps that we haven't yet explored? So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Adolfo. Please give him a warm welcome.
How many of you have you felt identified with some of the moments that I just showed you? Raise your hands, don't be shy. The truth is that 100% of this room, all of you, all of us, I'll include myself, have gone through some of these moments or similar moments in your lives. As Carl said, technology has absolutely disrupted the way we interact with brands and the way we interact with each other. And actually, the other day, I was trying to reflect how those technologies actually impacted our lives. And I was sitting with a very good friend of mine, and we were trying to reflect how these technologies actually impacted absolutely everything that we do in our lives. And I would like to do the same exercise with you today. We wake up in the morning and we probably don't listen to the radio anymore because we have an awesome platform in our phones that allow us to listen to our favorite music, to our favorite artists just with one click. I don't remember when it was the last time that I went to the cinema. Actually, do you remember when it was the last time that you went to the cinema?
Yeah.
Yeah? Very long time ago?
No, it was last Wednesday.
So I don't remember. I don't remember when it was the last time that I went to the cinema. Because I can enjoy from the comfort of my sofa, from the comfort of my house, of my favorite series, of my favorite movies. I have to recognize that I like to go to the cinema, though. Thanks to platforms like Netflix, like HBO, I usually travel quite a lot as well for business, and that's for sure. I don't remember when it was the last time that I took a cab, because I use platforms like Uber, platforms like Cabify in Spain or Portugal, and even Brazil, that allows you to customize the ride. Not just allow you to get to your destination, but allows you as well to customize the ride and bespoke it. And when you travel, actually, the other day I was walking down the street, and I was with my wife, and I told her, I felt like I saw a unicorn. I saw a travel agency. Because I don't remember either when I went to a travel agency to prepare and to decide the kind of destination that I want to go into. And the thing is that once you have selected the destination, once you have selected when you want to spend your holidays, probably you don't want to a hotel. You go to an Airbnb and you enjoy the comfort of an Airbnb of a house and you feel home. And I guess that you don't know this one. But as I told you at the beginning, even the way that we interact with each other has changed because of technology. And this reminds me when I was a child, a little child, and my mom came to my room, knocked on the door, and told me, Adolfo, disconnect from the internet because I cannot connect from the landline. Do you remember that horrible sound to the router still hammering in my head? But the reality is that today we don't connect. Today we live absolutely connected. And even though that this is a trend that we take for granted, the reality is just half of the population has access to internet. But what we expect is that by 2020 or 2021, almost the entire global population will have access to internet. And it's not going to be just us, the ones who are going to be connected to internet, but absolutely everything around us. Actually, there is research that demonstrates that by 2021, we are going to be connected to 50 billion devices around the world. You know what this number represents? This is a very difficult one. Something is happening as well in the consumer behavior. I mean, we analyze how technology has impacted consumers. We analyze how technology has impacted the way we interact with each other, how we interact with brands, but something is happening in the consumer behavior. We are borderless. I really like to say that as consumers, we are borderless. This was a research that Gartner ran a couple of years ago, where they asked to consumers, to customers, if they knew where Booking.com was from. And 96% didn't have any idea where Booking.com was from. Actually, how many of you knew that Booking.com was from the Netherlands? Raise your hands. Are you Dutch? Okay. But most importantly, consumers are borderless, because consumers, 90% of those, don't even care if Booking.com was from the Netherlands. They don't consider the origin of the company in order to make the decisions. The only thing they care about is that if the company serves their needs and serve their kind of needs when they need it. So this is in the consumer side, but let's put now ourselves in the company side. What's happening with companies? How many decision makers of companies do we have here today? Raise your hands, show some hands. What's happening with companies is that technology is also impacting the way that they do business. Because if we reflect on that, what's happening is that the world's biggest transportation company owns no fleet, Uber. The largest accommodation provider has no real estate, Airbnb. And last but not least, the world's most valuable retailer has no stock. And I don't know how you feel as decision makers in your companies, the ones we have in the room. But the way I feel is uncomfortable. I think that if we have to make decisions in our domestic market, what happens is that we have a lot of complexity around it. But if we have to make decisions when we enter in international markets where we don't know the legal stuff, when we don't know the fiscal policies, when we don't even know which our customers are or how our customers are, this adds an extra layer of complexity in our decisions. And this makes me feel uncomfortable. Actually, when I visualize a company entering a new market, I visualize the Atlantic Sea. I'm Catholic, as all of you, even though I'm Spanish. I'm Catholic because I'm from Galicia, from the northwest of Spain. I'm Celtic. So I feel this way. I feel like drowning down the sea. I feel uncomfortable because when you enter new markets, you don't really understand what you are going to have to face. And this happens all the time when we talk with our customers, when we talk with SMBs worldwide. Let me share a story with you about change and about uncertainty. A couple of months ago, I went to San Francisco to visit a very good friend of mine. And when I was at his house, his two 6-year-old twins arrived home. 2 6-year-old twins, super cute. And we straight away realized like one of them was extremely worried. He had a very funny face. So his father realized and told me, wait a minute, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to talk to him and understand what's going on. So when he arrived downstairs, he asked him, what's going on, what's happening? The 6-year-old child told him that tomorrow at school, they are going to change the bus stop. I'm going to have a new bus stop. And you might laugh. I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal. But if you put yourself in the shoes of that 6-year-old child, and you have to visualize how you have to go through all that crowd at 3 o'clock when they leave the school, and have to understand where the new bus stop is, that's a very big deal. So his father told him, no problem at all, close your eyes, we are going to try to visualize how to reach that new bus stop. So they mentally followed the way to reach that new bus stop, and what his father realized is that halfway was the class of the other child, the other son, that seems to be very quiet. You know why? Because from that class, you could actually see the new bus stop. So his father told him, no problem at all. If something goes wrong, you grab the hand of your brother and you go together outside. So his father came downstairs and told me, Adolfo, I have a very good learning for you. People are not afraid of change. What people are afraid of uncertainty and the unknown. Today, I'd like to talk to you about that uncertainty and the unknown. How in Google we help companies to reach their new bus stop, their new countries, and how thanks to technology and thanks to artificial intelligence, machine learning, we are helping companies reduce and decrease their uncertainty and the unknown when they enter in new markets. And I usually say that it's never too early to think about internationalization. But when the moment comes, how are you able to fulfill those, and to reach those goals, right? So a couple of years ago, when we built this project and when we really wanted to partner up with small and medium businesses worldwide, we said, okay, we are going to go to the market, we are going to help them to export, but how do we start? So we ask small and medium businesses, which are the main hurdles you face when you enter in new markets? And the first thing that they told us is that they needed help planning. They needed help prioritizing where the opportunity actually lies. So understanding where they have potential customers looking for their products and services. And 60% of them, 60% of the sporters, said that acquiring market insights is by far the most important capability that they might have. And most importantly, out of those, 61% actually told us that they needed support with operations. So, very simple. They needed support understanding which markets they have to get in, and they needed support in the how to reach that audience, how to reach those markets. So the second step that they decided to deep dive in was build the operations. So build the operations in that market. But build operations is a very complicated road to drive. Because when you have to build your operations, as I said at the beginning, you have to understand the finance, you have to understand the policy, you have to understand the legal aspects, the marketing, even the engineering. So we said, okay, we are going to really understand your needs, and we are going to support you on those, but you have to prioritize them. You have to tell me which are the main hurdles you face when you have to build operations. And they identify localization as the main hurdle they face. And localization is basically the process of making something local in character or restricting it to a particular place. Because as consumers, besides being borderless, as I said, we are very fussy and we are very demanding. And we really want brands to really understand us and craft their message. We don't want international brands coming to our markets with generic messages. We really want to adapt them to the characteristics of our markets. So they were totally right. And they identify localization as the main hurdle they face when they enter new markets. They say, we really need support with this. And they were absolutely right. I mean, 72% of consumers, we, spend most of our time in websites in our own languages. 82% of shoppers are more likely to buy if promotional material is in their own languages. And last but not least, more than half of the consumers said the ability to obtain information in their own language is even more important than price. And this is a picture of the new Starbucks in Milano. Italians are queuing to enter in a Starbucks. I mean, Italians are the kings of coffee. But they were able to adapt the message. They were able to adapt even the store. And they built an awesome store in the city center in Milan. So if Starbucks was able to convince Italians to try an American coffee, I think that companies really have to convey their message to the international population. They told us we need support with payments, with global payments. Actually, 60%, not this figure, 60% of all the transactions that we do already are done digitally. So they told us we really need support with global payments. We really need to localize as well our global payments in order to enter into markets, but we need support with this. And they were right. Again, 67% of online shoppers abandon carts because a site does not support local payment methods. 38% would never shop with an online merchant, again, following a negative delivery experience. How many of you have ever been annoyed by a delivery experience? A package that arrived late? Carl was right. You have to start buying already the Christmas presents. Imagine that if they deliver it after. I mean, delivery and international logistics is key for companies going to international markets. But probably the one where technology is going to have the biggest impact is going to be customer care. This is a research from Gartner from 2011 already. And I can assure you that we are heading there. Gartner said already in 2011 that 80% of the customer interactions will be managed without a human by 2020. And we are already doing it. I mean, half of the population, us, we are using smart devices, and we are using assistants such as Siri, such as Google Assistant, I hope, to do our searches. They are totally into our daily life. But we are not the only ones doing it. We have another person doing it. How many NBA fans do we have in the room today? Just one? Two? Come on, give me more. How many of you know Kevin Durant? Okay. So even Kevin Durant uses Google Assistant to do his searches.
Hi, Google. Call Maddie.
Okay, dialing now.
Hey Google, order my usual from Starbucks.
All right, getting Starbucks.
Hey Google, call my brother.
Hey Google, call my brother.
Text Carol.
Can you text Carol for me too?
Hey Google, who just texted me?
Yo, Google.
Kevin, that was great, but we haven't made Yo Google work yet, so you have to say,
Hey Google.
Hey, Google!
Hi, how can I help?
Play some Sia.
Hey Google, play the next episode.
Play The Crown on Netflix.
All Channing Tatum movies.
Yo, Google.
that was great. Can we just get one where you say, hey Google?
Hey Google, find my phone.
Whoa.
Hey Google.
Hey, Google! Yo, Google, lock the front door.
Okay, let's just go with Yo Google then. I'm sure the engineers would love to update everything.
Yo.
for you.
So assistance, 85% of customer interactions run without a human. We are heading there. So companies told us, plan. I want to understand which countries I have to get in. Build. I want to understand how to enter in those countries. Scale. I want to understand how to launch my brand. I want to understand how to reach my audience. And we told them, that's very cool. And we totally agree with you. There is no substitute for personally watching and listening to real people. That's what Larry Page said. And I couldn't agree more with him. But the problem is that consumers are like icebergs. We are like icebergs. You can see the 5% of them, but you cannot really see the 95% behind them. Actually, let me introduce you to Pedro. And I'm going to localize it, Peter. So Peter is a guy that lives in Berlin and earns a salary of 130K. And I think that we are all very proud of Peter, aren't we? And this is Peter. If we look at the demographics, if we look at the 5% of Peter, this is how Peter looks like. But the problem is that Peter is this person as well, and you have to really deep dive in order to understand him. If you are a marketeer, probably you are interested in understanding that Peter is a person that is frequently comparing motorbike prices on his smartphone, relevant information for marketers. Looking for skincare recommendations for his tattoos, again, very relevant insight for marketers. And last but not least, he's currently watching videos of Bruce Springsteen on YouTube. And believe it or not, this is a relevant insight for marketers in order to understand Peter. Because demographic information is almost useless. And it's not me who said that, but Todd Yelling, who is the vice president of innovation of Netflix, who said that demographic information is almost useless. Because there are 19-year-old girls watching Dance Moms and 73-year-old women addicted to Breaking Bad and Avengers. Do you know how much market share would Netflix be losing if they focus just on the 5%? If they focus just on demographics? Let's do something between 0 to 5% market share drop. Show some hands. No? Between 5 to 10? You're very aggressive. Between 10 to 15. How much market share Netflix would lose before not focusing on the more in-depth insights? More than 15? It's more than 15. It's at 22%. Netflix would be losing a 22% market share if they don't take into account that more in-depth approach. So demographic information is almost useless. So with everything that we talk about, I mean, we talk about the consumer behavior, we talk about the impact of technology in companies, we talk about how technology has impacted the way we interact with each other and the way we interact with the brands. Does it mean that we need a new expansion model? As companies, do we have to change our expansion model in order to reach our audience? Raise your hands, the ones that you think that we have to stick to our way of doing things. Raise your hands, the ones that you think that we really have to change our new expansion model. 90%. The reality is that there is not a right or wrong answer. The reality is that what we have today is a much sharper set of knives. This is Wendy Clark, the senior VP of Coca-Cola, former senior VP of Coca-Cola. And she's totally right. What we realize is that at the end of the day, companies have to do exactly the same things. They have to enter in new markets, and they have to understand which markets they have to get in. They have to build their operations, and they have to customize those operations to the local market that they are getting in. And last but not least, they have to scale their brand and really reach that 95% of the consumers that they don't see at the first sight. The good news is what they have today is a much sharper set of knives, a much sharper set of tools, leveraging on technology in order to decrease and diminish the barriers they had when they enter in new markets. The barriers they had when they had to find their new bus stop. So a couple of years ago, we were in front of this problem. How we help companies at a scale. I mean, we understand what you need, but how we are going to help SMBs at a scale? How are we going to be able to help SMBs worldwide? And what we did was to design Market Finder. Market Finder is our Sharper tool. The Sharper tool that is going to allow companies and going to help companies to decrease the barriers they have or they face when they enter in new markets. A tool that is going to help them to tackle all the main buckets that they identify: plan, build, and scale. And you might be wondering how to use a tool. It seems very sophisticated. It is sophisticated, but the language it uses, it's simple. And now I'm going to ask you to do an exercise. You are going to put the hat on of head of international expansion for a company that do jumpers and is based in Wexford, for instance. Anybody from Wexford? So put the hat on of a head of international expansion for a company that do jumpers in Wexford. And they want to start exporting to different markets. And remember, they need support with plan. They need support with build. And last but not least, they need support understanding their global audience. So the way it works is the following. You have your awesome website, wooljumpers.ie. And I'm going to give you a hint here. This domain is still available, so if you want to become rich, you can actually buy it and start promoting it. So you plug in the URL, and the platform automatically is going to crawl your website, and it's going to recognize the categories that you are operating in. So in this case, it's women's clothing, fashion designers and collections, apparel accessories, and handbags and purses. So once the website identifies this, it's going to help you with the plan. And remember, the plan was all about prioritizing where your opportunity lies. And it's going to give you the list of markets that you have to focus in based on more than 50 macroeconomic variables, macroeconomic and microeconomic as well, and taking into consideration some of the Google internal data. So for instance, in terms of Google internal data, it's going to look at demand. So it's going to do a demand assessment. And it's going to do like kind of proxy to the monthly searches across categories. So in those categories that you are operating, these are the searches that are happening in those three markets: United States, India, and France. The second part is going to be like a macroeconomic data. So it's going to give you as well a rank of the ease of doing business in those markets. And the last part is going to be the economic profile, so the household net disposable income that they have in those specific countries. And we can go much more in depth. For instance, in India, we can really understand the characteristics of the consumer in India, that 95% of Peter, we can understand that. We can really understand the online profile, the purchase behavior, the search and advertising behavior. Then we are going to focus on build. Remember that horrible road that you have to navigate, that you have to drive in order to enter in those markets. So it's going to help you in operational areas: localization, payments, customer care, logistics, talent recruitment, tax, and legal. So it's going to help you to build your operations in your market, in that markets that you want to get in. In the case of localization, for instance, it's going to give you a deep dive on the languages that are spoken in those countries: United States, India, France, percentages, best practices, payments. And this is a very important one. You have to really customize your payments when you enter in international markets. But because if you go with a credit card to India, you'd be totally losing all your customers. Because in India, 27% of the population use bank transfer. And 22% uses cash on delivery. So if you go with the payment methods that you have here in Ireland, in Wexford, in Dublin, Limerick, you'd be losing that population. So you really have to adapt the message, and you really have to adapt the payment methods. We have insights on that as well. Marketing strategy area, so the scale. Remember, plan, build, scale. Now it's time to scale your brand. So we are going to help you with global marketing strategy, business performance, search advertising. So we had a problem. The problem to really help companies at a scale entering international markets. And today I'd like to share with you a case study from a company based in Czech Republic that went from bankruptcy to be present in more than 10 e-commerce shops across Europe. And I think that there is not better person to talk about the case study than his CEO. So I leave you with the video of the CEO.
My name is Peter Nedeliak, and I'm founder of Ultraplast. We produce goods from plastic. We are a little family-owned company, maybe 30 people, most of them relatives. In 2008, at that time, we worked directly for automotive industry. That was a big crisis. We really was near bankruptcy, and we must find some new business within 1-2 months. For that, we start with this product, a roof box. We prepare our first e-shop and set up Google AdWords. Within 2-3 weeks, we sell the first boxes, and it was more and more. We realized if it's working in Slovakia, maybe it will be working in Czech Republic. And then Germany, and in France, and Italy. Google tools help us very much when we investigate this market and organize transport, payment, localization. Within 2-3 years, we have 10 e-shops in 10 countries, and our revenue is growing more than 50% every year. We have a really big market, and for that we develop new products, the best wheelbarrow on the world and our best roof box on the world, and still directly from producer to customer.
So Ultraplast was able to adapt to a more connected audience. I think that we are more connected than ever before. They were able to adapt as well to a very powerful audience. I mean, we have the power of the relationship with the brands. They were able to face a very knowledgeable customers and busier than ever before. I think that we are busier than ever before, and most importantly, borderless. Remember that 96% of people that didn't know that Booking.com was from the Netherlands. You know what Ultraplast and what our bull from Wexford did in order to reach those international audiences? They plan. So they prioritize where the opportunity lies. They understand where the opportunity lies. They build. So they prepare their operations. They really drive that complicated road, and they reach that 95% of the audience that they didn't know at the first sight. And last but not least, they scale. So they were able to launch and measure their brand. So from here today, and before opening to questions, I'd like to invite you that together we keep thinking global, but never forget to act local. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Adolfo. We will come to questions now in a sec, so if you do have any questions for Adolfo, if you are a business owner and you're thinking about it for next year, get ready for some questions and we'll throw out the mic in just a second. But just to kind of recap, I think, so myself and Adolfo's team work really closely together. So as I said, I'm the agency lead for Ireland, so I work with a lot of media agencies and a lot of big businesses who want to grow their business next year. One of the most common questions we get asked is, like, what's the one thing I should be doing next year? They come to us, they come to Google, and they're looking for that insight. Like, what's the one thing I should be doing with my business next year? My ask to you is take that tool. Some of you will have seen that Market Finder tool. In the next week or two, take 30 minutes to an hour, put in your business, and just see what information it gives you back. We can't find the opportunities if we don't allow ourselves the chance to actually learn about the business. At the very least, I promise you, you will learn more about your business and you'll learn more about your consumers when you put your business into that tool. Okay, so has anyone got any questions for Adolfo on what we've gone through or for next year and what you would like to do? Okay, I see a gentleman just over here.
And remember that if you don't have a business, you still have an available domain that you can explore.
Thank you. Thanks for the talk, Adolfo. I got a question in terms of blockchain, right? So you're talking about location and build business in other places. The blockchain becomes a disrupted, market in the future as artificial intelligence as well. So how would you, or how Google would see the blockchain implementation in the business in the future?
Yeah, I can actually put you an example, and not an example of Google. I can put you an example of a company that, for me, is disrupting the international trade and international growth landscape, which is Maersk Line. Maersk Line, for those who don't know the company, is a Denmark company, a Danish company, which did containers, basically. So containers, if you see containers in the harbor of Dublin, this was probably the biggest company in the container landscape. So Maersk Line was very good. The core of Maersk Line was basically moving containers from one place to another one. But what they did very well, and to your question, was to partner up with IBM. And what they did was a blockchain platform that basically allows to move the containers paperless, in a paperless way. So they were able to go to the market and convince the customs. This is a platform market, so two-side market. They went first to the customs, and they really convinced the governments, and they really convinced the customs in different countries worldwide in order to bring them on board. And they went to companies, and they are already testing this. This is way more efficient than before. And they are really reducing the costs. So I totally agree with you. I think that blockchain, together with artificial intelligence, even that blockchain is not something that we are focusing on, I think that it's going to be a technology to look after, and it's a technology that is playing a key role on international growth and international trade overall.
Any other questions for Adolfo? Just put your hand up. Any
That gentleman over there?
Yeah.
There you go.
Good try, yeah.
Thanks. Just having another overview on the market, how would you compare your service with other companies that I was researching this week, like Lionbridge and Transperfect? Do you partner with these companies, or I know you have a localization team inside of Google, of course, but I would like to see your view on your thoughts on this. Like, how do you compare the service that you are offering to these other companies, or if you just partner with these other companies as well, like Lionbridge and Transperfect?
Yeah, very good question. Thanks for the question. What we did, and this is a very good question, and I like that you understand our internal operations. What we did a couple of years ago, when we initiated this journey in the international growth landscape, was to really understand what we're good at. And what we realized is that what we are good at is at providing insights and at giving recommendations to reach that 95% of the audience. But we had a gap in between, which was the operational part. So in the operational part, what we realized is that we had a lot of expertise and a very strong partner ecosystem already built. So basically, the partners that help us to go to more than 200 countries with 70 different products. So partners in localization, partners in logistics, partners in payments, and partners in customer care. So we wouldn't be able to recommend those partners that we don't know to our clients, but we really trust the partner ecosystem that help us as Google to enter in those markets. So what we did was to connect the dots, basically, and we are acting as a bridge. Some of them are included in Market Finder already. Some of them are being referred to our customers. So if we have a customer X that wants to enter in India, for instance, and they tell us, we need support with global payments. How can we go to India and really customize our global payments? So we have awesome partners that we trust for our own products and our own services, and we do partner introduction. So we connect the dots. For instance, in the payments landscape, an Irish company, Stripe. I guess that some of you might know Stripe.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Can I just add to that as well? One other point as well. I think is when we look to design Market Finder, right? It was based off feedback from you guys in the room, from advertisers around the world, that we'd love accessibility to your data, more data on other markets, and that's what it's really founded on as well. Is that the insights is one part of it, but Google is a company that's founded on and achieves its success on the quality and the quantity of data that we have, and the Market Finder tool is us opening up the doors for you guys to access that data to find opportunities in different markets for yourselves. So it's also a big data play as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Adolfo? Any questions in particular on the tool as well, following that question? Just down here in front of you to your right, yeah. Thank you.
John from Ding.com here. One of the things I was thinking about, the tool itself, how does it scrape the website and figure out what product you're selling and how different markets describe that product? So for example, we sell mobile phone top-up, but in the Philippines, people call it load. How does the system figure out if there's demand in the Philippines when, you know, if you're new and you're only publishing your website in English and you're not mentioning those terms, how does it make that link?
Yeah, thanks to taxonomies. I mean, it's not, and this is an awesome question, based on taxonomies, basically. So the tool automatically recognizes the word or the kind of categories in your website in Ireland, in English, and then it adapts as well and understands the demand on those terms translated in the different countries. So obviously it's not gonna compare this to mobile phones because, for instance, for an Irish company, United States would always win. United States would be always on the top of the list. So what it does is basically to translate all the categories in your website, first cross the website, compares all the categories in the website, then compares these and match it with all the languages around the world. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Good question.
One final question before we let everybody go and get maybe their second coffee of the morning. Or caffeine wins out, does it? Yeah. Okay, in that case, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.